Sometimes, a story comes along that, whether it's a documented event or a modern fable, holds a powerful truth about the world we live in. This is one of those stories. It's set in a place called Ethelgard, the kind of restaurant where the air is thick with the scent of money and power, a place where whispers are worth more than shouts. On this particular evening, a quiet legend was about to be born, a story about two men. One had enough wealth to buy anything he could ever want, and the other possessed something that could never be bought. At the center of it all was Lin Wei, a Chinese billionaire holding court. His laugh boomed through the hushed elegance of the room. Leaning toward his companion with a smug smile, he spoke in Mandarin, his words sharp with contempt. "Look at him," Lin Wei said, nodding toward the waiter serving their table. "They let people like this in here now. It's a disgrace. His skin is the color of coal. You think he can even tell the difference between a fork and a spoon?" His guests, a group of eager-to-please associates, burst into laughter. And the target of it all, a young black waiter named Jamal, heard every word. He stood perfectly still, his face a mask of professional calm, but his posture radiated a quiet dignity. Everyone in that room saw him as just another powerless man in a uniform, enduring humiliation for a paycheck. But they were about to learn a lesson they would never forget. They had judged the book by its cover, but they had no idea of the library hidden inside. Section 1, The Gilded Cage. To understand what happened next, you have to understand the stage. Ethelgard wasn't just a restaurant, it was a statement. The floors were polished marble, reflecting the golden light from crystal chandeliers. The chairs were deep velvet, and the tables were draped in linen so white they seemed to absorb all sound, creating an atmosphere of serene, almost sacred, exclusivity. To work here was to be invisible and everywhere at once. The staff moved like ghosts, a silent ballet of service. And in this ballet, Jamal was a star performer. He wasn't just a waiter, he was a student of the human condition, and this restaurant was his classroom. Jamal was in his final year of university, studying international relations with a minor in linguistics. His father was a diplomat who had raised his son to believe that language was the key to understanding, the antidote to prejudice. Jamal could move between English, French, Spanish, and Mandarin with incredible fluency. He worked at Ethelgard not just for the money, but for the practice. It was a place where worlds collided, where he could listen to the rhythms of power. He carried himself with an inherited grace, a quiet confidence often mistaken for weakness by men like Lin Wei. His uniform was spotless, his movements precise. When he described a dish, his voice was a low, steady murmur. He saw his work as a craft and believed in dignity, a belief that was about to be tested in the most public way imaginable. Into this world of measured calm, Lin Wei arrived like a storm. He didn't walk, he conquered space, his entourage trailing behind him. He was a self-made billionaire who had clawed his way to the top. But in his climb, he seemed to have shed his empathy. He saw the world as a pyramid with him at the very top. The staff of Ethelgard were just background noise. From the moment they were seated, Jamal knew this table would be a challenge. Lin Wei snapped his fingers to summon him, a sound that cut through the refined ambience like a whip. His sharp eyes scanned Jamal from head to toe, not with curiosity, but with cold assessment. Jamal approached with his usual unshakable professionalism. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Ethelgard. My name is Jamal. May I begin with some water for the table?" Lin Wei ignored him, turning to his guest, a more reserved man named Mr. Chen, and speaking in rapid-fire Mandarin. Jamal, of course, understood every word. "Did you see that?" Lin Wei sneered. "They give them names now. Jamal. How quaint. As if naming it will make it more competent." Mr. Chen offered a weak, uneasy smile. The other two men at the table chuckled on cue. Jamal's face remained a polite, neutral mask as he poured the water, his hand as steady as a surgeon's. Inside, though, something shifted. He'd heard casual bigotry before, but this was different. This was vicious, built on the arrogant assumption that he was deaf to his own humiliation. The ordering was another power play. Lin Wei waved the menu away. Bring me your best. Don't bore me with details. Just make sure it is expensive, he said, before adding in Mandarin with a wave at Jamal. He wouldn't understand the difference anyway. Jamal just bowed his head slightly. Of course, sir. An excellent choice. I will ask the chef to prepare a selection of our signature dishes. You will not be disappointed. His calm, perfect English seemed to irritate Lin Wei even more. The billionaire wanted a reaction, a flicker of resentment. Jamal's refusal to give him one was a quiet act of defiance, and Lin Wei couldn't stand it. He decided to escalate. The stage was set for a confrontation that would expose the rot hiding just beneath the gilded surface. Section 2, The Unraveling of Arrogance. As the first course arrived, Lin Wei's verbal attacks grew bolder. He saw Jamal's composure not as strength, but as ignorance. Picking up his fork, he spoke to Mr. Chen in Mandarin, his voice dripping with mock concern. You know, Chen, I worry for our server. This silverware must be very confusing for him. In his village, they probably just use their hands. It's a primitive culture, you understand. The laughter from his companions was louder this time. Other diners started to turn their heads. They couldn't understand the words, but the tone of mockery is universal. They saw a powerful man and his friends laughing at a black waiter who stood silently, absorbing the abuse. Some looked uncomfortable but quickly turned away, unwilling to get involved. Jamal felt their stares like a physical weight. He felt the hot flush of anger, the sting of humiliation at being reduced to a stereotype. But beneath it all, a cold, clear resolve was taking shape. He thought of his father, who once told him about his early days as a diplomat facing hostility. Dignity, Jamal, his father had said, is the one thing no one can take from you. They cannot take your dignity unless you surrender it. Your response is your power. In that moment, Jamal understood. This wasn't just about a rude customer. This was a clash of worldviews. Lin Wei's world was built on prejudice and false superiority. It was a small, ugly world. And Jamal realized he had the tools to take it apart. Not with anger, but with something far more powerful, understanding. The final straw came with the main course. As Jamal placed a plate of roasted duck in front of Lin Wei, the billionaire gestured sharply, knocking his own hand against Jamal's arm. A single drop of raspberry sauce landed on the white cuff of Lin Wei's shirt. Lin Wei froze, looking at the tiny red dot as if he'd been shot. Then, he slowly raised his head, his eyes full of venom. In a voice loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear, he unleashed a torrent of abuse in Mandarin. You clumsy, incompetent animal, he roared. This shirt is worth more than your entire miserable life. Is this what your people do? Ruin things. You are nothing but a descendant of slaves, born to serve and to fail. Look at you. Standing there like a dumb beast. The hateful words hung in the air. His guests sat in stunned silence. The other diners stared openly, their forks frozen mid-air. Jamal stood perfectly still. He let the words echo and fade. He didn't look at the stain. He looked directly into Lin Wei's eyes. And just like that, the power in the room began to shift. Jamal's calm was no longer passive, it was active. It was the calm of someone who sees the entire board and knows the exact move that leads to checkmate. In his blind arrogance, Lin Wei had left his king completely exposed. Jamal took a slow, deliberate breath. The noise of the restaurant faded away. It was just him and the man who had tried to dehumanize him. The confrontation was over. The lesson was about to begin. Jamal took one step closer to the table. He inclined his head, not in submission, but to command attention. The entire restaurant held its breath. Then, in flawless, pitch-perfect Mandarin, his voice clear and ringing with authority, he spoke. Sir, is your anger because of this drop of sauce, or is it because it has stained your white cuff, much like my presence has stained your noble view? The effect was instant. Lin Wei's jaw went slack. The rage drained from his face, replaced by a pale, ashen shock. Mr. Chen physically recoiled. The two junior associates looked as if they had just seen a ghost. Jamal didn't pause. He held Lin Wei's gaze and continued, his Mandarin becoming more fluid, more philosophical. The philosopher Mengzi taught that all humans have a heart that cannot bear the suffering of others. He said, all men have a mind which cannot bear to see the sufferings of others. He argued that anyone seeing a child about to fall into a well would feel compassion, not for personal gain, but because it is fundamental to our nature. He concluded that a person without a heart of compassion is not truly human. Sir, watching you, I have been wondering, has your great wealth cost you your humanity? Every word was a perfectly aimed strike. He wasn't just speaking Lin Wei's language, he was wielding its cultural and philosophical weight against him. He exposed him not just as a bigot, but as a man who failed to live up to the very culture he claimed made him superior. Lin Wei was speechless. A sheen of sweat broke out on his forehead. His entire world, built on a rickety foundation of arrogance, was crumbling around him, brought down by the quiet, scholarly words of the man he had called an animal. Jamal pressed his advantage, his voice still calm. You believe your position grants you the right to demean me. You see my skin and my uniform and see a man beneath you. But you are mistaken. A uniform is a symbol of my profession, not the measure of my worth. My skin is a testament to my heritage, not an invitation for your contempt. True status is not found in the brand of your suit. It is found in your character. Then, he delivered the final, devastating blow, invoking the master strategist, Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu said, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. You tried to wage a war on my dignity. But you cannot win a battle against a man who refuses to be your enemy. By trying to diminish me, you only revealed the poverty of your own spirit. He paused, letting the words settle in the dead silent room. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't cursed. He had simply, elegantly, and completely dismantled Lin Wei. Finally, Jamal switched back to perfect, crisp English for the benefit of the entire room. Your meal has been served. The service is now complete. I hope the rest of your evening is enlightening. He gave a slight, precise bow, not of servitude, but of closure. And then, he turned and walked away. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then, an elderly woman in the corner began to clap. Her soft applause was joined by another, and then another. Within seconds, the entire dining room, except for Lin Wei's funereal table, had erupted in a wave of thunderous applause. It was a standing ovation for dignity itself. Lin Wei sat frozen, his face a mask of humiliation. He, a man who lived for public admiration, was now the target of public scorn. He had been utterly defeated. He fumbled for his wallet, threw a wad of cash on the table, and stormed out of the restaurant, his entourage scrambling to follow like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Conclusion. The story of that night at Ethelgard never made the headlines. There were no viral videos. Instead, it became something more powerful, a quiet legend, a modern fable about the true nature of wealth and power. In the story, the fallout for Lin Wei was quiet but significant. Mr. Chen, deeply shamed by the incident, slowly untangled his business from the billionaires. Whispers of his public humiliation spread through the elite circles where reputation is everything. His empire didn't crumble, but a permanent crack had formed in its foundation, a stain of dishonor that no amount of money could ever wash away. And Jamal? He finished his degree at the top of his class and went on to join the diplomatic corps, just like his father. He spent his career using language not as a weapon, but as a bridge, to foster understanding and diffuse conflict. The memory of Lin Wei stayed with him as a reminder: prejudice is born from ignorance, and the most powerful response to ignorance will always be wisdom. This story is a powerful reminder for all of us. We live in a world that's quick to judge, to put people in boxes based on what they look like or what they do for a living. We see a uniform and forget the person inside it. But every so often, a moment like this comes along that shatters our assumptions and reminds us that the quietest person in the room might just have the most powerful voice. CTA. We believe stories have the power to change the world, one perspective at a time. The core lesson here is that dignity isn't a gift from others, but a treasure you hold within yourself. If you believe a person's character is their greatest asset, please share this video with someone who might appreciate the message. What part of Jamal's response resonated with you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching.